Kevin, how are you, buddy? Tiki and Tierney, what's happening?
I'm doing good, boys. How you guys doing?
Doing okay. I mean, listen, there's a lot of stories before we get to the All-Star Game stuff that are obviously very big. Looks like Clayton Kershaw will probably not be ready to return after the All-Star Game right away. The Mets have just had heavy doses of bad news. And let's start with the Mets here. Knowing the way the Cardinals are rounding into form, knowing what the Pirates are, knowing the Dodgers appear legit, I mean, is it possible the Mets go from a team that people penciled in as a World Series basically contender to an afterthought, might not even make the postseason?
Well, injuries, I'll tell you right now. Before the season starts, who didn't have the Mets right there because that roster? I mean, that rotation. I mean, so this is the one thing in baseball you can't predict big injuries. You take away a big injury from any other club, and it stings you. I mean, the Rangers were the only team that kind of when they used Yu Darvish as their ace, it's kind of like they kept going and going and going. But long term, you're going to start seeing it if they don't do something with their staff. The Mets rotation to start the season, you're thinking Matt Harvey, you're thinking Syndergaard, you're thinking DeGrom, you're thinking the Steven Matz kid, and their fifth guy was Bartolo, who's an all-star. You're like, this team's unbelievable. They don't even have to hit. They got Cespedes back. So the whole thing is now this is a club that struggled. They're in trouble, and you're seeing it. They're in third place. They're 6 games out, but they're still 6 games above 500. So the good news is that this All-Star game came nice at a nice time. They've lost 3 in a row. They can take a deep breath, but there has to be a move somewhere because they, with the Syndergaard scene, the arm fatigue, that starts getting scary.
Yeah, no, it's code for something else, and you don't want to know what that something else is. On the other, a different team, same conference, the Cubs. We thought they were going to run away with Major League Baseball. They have all the talent in the world, both on the rotation and then obviously the position players as well. What's wrong with them?
Yeah, they went bad altogether at once. I mean, every good team goes through speed bumps in the road. Period. I mean, if they would have kept going on their pace, they would have won 135 games, right? They got such a great start. They did what they wanted to do, and that was to do that. Now, what scares me is that their rotation all went bad at once. They're still young offensively. They're exciting. They're great. You're looking at Chris Bryant, who's going to have 30-plus homers for a lot of years and driving 120-plus RBIs. You're looking at, Anthony Rizzo, who's your veteran over there at 26, 27 years old at first base, who's going to do the same thing. But they still have young at-bats. When Dexter Fowler went down at the top of the leadoff spot, you had to move Ben Zobrist up top, but then you had a bunch of young guys that you're still having to fill in. Jason Hayward hasn't been very good offensively for them. He catches the baseball, he's ran, but this team kind of all went bad at once, and you saw what can happen. And they put the Pirates and Cardinals right back in the scene. I left their Father's Day weekend. Okay, Father's Day weekend in Chicago. They were 14 and 15 games up. I'm thinking, man, this is terrible for baseball. They're going to be 25 games up. They're going to be out of it come first week in July. And you look about how you got to play these games. Now they're 7 games and 7.5 games out. St. Louis and Pittsburgh. It's back to a fight.
No, it's true, Kevin. I remember at one point, and I said this to Tiki, and I remember doing some research. I said, I got to punch up the Yankees, the 1927 Yankees run differential, because I thought there was a chance the Cubbies might shatter it this year. And now, all of a sudden, you look up, and they're only like 25 runs, and they're still very good at plus 139 or whatever. But the Nats are on their heels. So, in old baseball, it is a streaky game of failure. And when things go cold, they tend to stay cold for a little bit. That's what happens when you play a sport based on failure.
No doubt. And you got the Giants, who have the best record, period, at 57 and 33. They just kind of keep plugging away, like the Bruce Bochy way. They just pitch, and they score runs, and they figure out play good defense. So you're exactly right. When you go cold, it's a snowball effect. And when you're hot, you see it go off, offensively and starting pitching-wise. But they're starting pitching. I mean, Jake Arrieta had a run that was going to be the best in the history. We saw it the best in the history of the game. If he's maintained that, you're looking at a Hall of Famer in 3 years in the big leagues, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, it was just stupid. So they're now back to reality. They're better than they've played the last 3 weeks, and they're probably not as good as they were the first 6 weeks. So the Cubs are a very good ball club, and if you're a Cubs fan, it's a fun time of year.
I'm talking to Kevin Millar, of course, MLB Network. I watch the show a lot. I think you and Chris Rose you have a lot of fun, which is always great, but I think you guys put on a really awesome show. It's called Intentional Talk for those who haven't. I pretty much flip it on almost every day. You guys rag on each other. It's almost like a locker room, which is appealing. I wanted to ask you this here, Kev. I read something when the All-Star Game starters were announced that basically is the most starters under the age of 26, like basically ever. I mean, which obviously shows a nice youth movement. Now, I wonder, is that just an anomaly? Like, or is that kind of by accident, or do you think that baseball is becoming cool again for the younger kids?
I just think the game's gotten younger. The game's gotten younger. The game has kind of pushed out that veteran guy. I mean, I got released in 2010 with the Cubs, but the Eric Hinskies, the Raul Banez's, the veteran position player that kind of roams up and down that dugout. David Ross plays that role with the Chicago Cubs, even though he's been catching a lot more. But the game's gotten younger, and you see that. I mean, guys are getting to the big leagues. It used to be get there as a rookie at 26, 27. Now the guys are in the big leagues at 20 years old. Position player wise, your Machados and your Bryce Harpers and your Mike Trouts, they dominate this game at such a young age. Your Nolan Arenado. So pitching wise, it's the same thing. Everybody's throwing harder and they're bigger and stronger. I mean, look at these guys on the mound. They're all 6'3" to 6'6". They all throw 95 to 100 miles an hour. It's a violent arm action, and you're seeing a ton of surgeries, and you're seeing just a ton of young studs. But the old Greg Maddux 88, 87 mile an hour backdoor sinker's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin, I'm looking at this promotion you guys are doing with Bank of America and the Memory Bank, and people can share their memories at MLB.com or tag their social media posts with MLB or hashtag MLB Memory Bank. What are the most ones you're getting? As I'm trying to think of something that's memorable in baseball. It's obviously such a slow, methodical sport sometimes. It gets forgettable, you know what I mean? But what's been the biggest, the social post that people are talking about memory-wise?
Yeah, it's a cool thing. I mean, Bank of America is connecting with baseball fans, around and sharing the love of baseball by basically sharing your favorite baseball memory using that hashtag MLB Memory Bank. And you're going to the first baseball game with your dad. Who everybody grows up and they have a team they rooted for. If you're a baseball fan, I remember going to Dodger Stadium and my dad wearing the headphones, listening to Vin Scully because that's what you did. You sat in the stands, you watched the game live, and you had Vin Scully on the headset. That's the way I grew up. And so I think that the coolest part about this whole thing with Bank of America doing is that it brings you back to man, what was the coolest thing you've done at the baseball field? It's whether it's a memory, something you did on the field with family. But I just think it brings you back. It because we go so fast in life and we forget. It's kind of like it just lets you take a deep breath, and I think it's a very cool thing that Bank of America is doing for the fans, and just having everybody slow down for a second, give us your best memory, and it's such a fun time here. Especially down at the Pepsi has got a block party, and fans can come down there to the hospitality area where they can stay up to date with the MLB coverage. And but Bank of America, cool thing, check it out, MLB Memory Bank.
Hey, Kevin, the bottom line is this. I mean, the pace of baseball is still the most conversational friendly. What I mean by that is it's not that you can't take a young child to, a Jets or a Giants game or a Raiders game or a Niners game or a Cowboys game, but it's very hard to explain the game during those, 15, 20 seconds of mayhem. Same with hockey, same with the NBA. But, Tiki knows, I mean, baseball's my thing, and it still is, growing up, I'm a baseball nut job. I love it. You could sit there with your dad or your uncle or your grandpa, and he could explain, not just what you're watching, but he can go back to Gibson and Drysdale and all the great names and Hank Aaron and Stan Musial, and you don't miss much. It's a great conversation backdrop.
Yeah, it is, and you got story time.
Yep.
You listen to the announcers, and they're telling the story, and, here, Dickie Barber, I tell you, Scully's one of the greatest ever. I mean, he just is a story time. Hey, Tiki Barber, I'll tell you what, he was a, postman growing up at age 13. Newspaper route back in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
This is what it's about. I mean, like you said, basketball and football, wonderful sports, but they're just fast. They're fast. You don't have time. It's like 3-point, Steph Curry downtown. Okay, boom, back. Pippen to Jordan. I mean, it's just nonstop, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, plus, I mean, I don't want to explain much, but I got $500 riding on the over-under. I don't know about you there, Millar. You know what I mean? Hey, good chatting. We'll tweet this out for you. Very cool thing with Bank of America and the memories. Good chatting, man. Keep up the good work with Chris Rose, too.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me.
Be good, Kevin.
Got it.